You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we're live. We're running a little bit behind, forgive us, but hey, we got to let the stream breathe just for a moment while we bring on our great Facebook community. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com and my fellow football priest. He is Zack Kelberman, fresh off a day off. Zack, how you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty well. We have some conflicting reports, as they tend to happen in Broncos country lately, Chad. A national reporter reports something, and then the local media kind of gets the beat on it, but we're going to talk more Broncos football.
So what Zack is referring to, and I'm sure you guys are aware of what the title of tonight's stream was. And by the way, we're really excited because we get to talk to one of our longtime superstars, a Mount Rushmore superstar, and Jay Thomas, a.k.a. JT, from across the pond. We're going to bring him on the show here in just a few minutes. But what Zack just referenced here is the report that came from Dan, is it Graziano? I don't mispronounce his name. Basically, he said that the Broncos, he reported on an ESPN insider piece that basically the Broncos have already made the decision that they're, even though the transaction has not been made yet, that they've already made the decision they're not going to extend or pick up Vaughn's option. And that took off like wildfire. And then pretty soon we had bona fide Broncos insiders like Benjamin Albright, as you can see here, like Troy Rank of Denver 7, like Mike Kliss of 9 News, chiming in to say, you know, they made their own phone calls to check on this. Here's what Benjamin Albright said, Zack, and then I'm going to serve this over to you. Just confirmed this with the team. No decision has been made on Von Miller's option. No one has contacted Vaughn's reps or Vaughn with any decision because no decision has been made. And they would be the first to know. The team is still trying to work through all that.
It's pretty cut and dry. It's someone in the national media tries to get the scoop, and they might have heard something legitimate, but obviously Graziano's source was a little mistaken, and he reported from U Stadium. I haven't really seen U Stadium break a bunch of Broncos news or NFL news, so take that with a big grain of salt. And listen, always keep in tune to the local guys. They have more of a read on the situation. Not saying us necessarily, but the Klisses, the Ranks, those kind of people, they quickly came out and disputed that. Vaughn's window is open now. They have a certain amount of time before they have to decide what they want to do with this option. But like we said, it's going to be a process that takes more than just a few days, probably a few weeks, if we're being realistic.
Honestly, how could they make a decision yet when they still don't know the resolution of that Parker PD criminal investigation, right? So, like, you know, that's going to inform this is my opinion. If you look at the decision factors, all right, the factors that George Payton is weighing as the GM here on whether or not to pick up the option or what to offer Vaughn or whatever, if you look at it as a pie chart, I'm telling you that half of that pie chart is what happens with the criminal PD or the criminal investigation. If it turns out to be unfounded and nothing comes of it, and they report that no charges will come, went to the DA and there's nothing coming, I think that is a very encouraging sign that the Broncos are probably going to find a way to make things happen. But right now, it's still a little standoffish because they have a big financial disincentive with Vaughn right now. Or let me put that another way. They have a financial incentive to move on from him, considering that he had the kind of down year in 2019, and then he missed all of 2020, and he's entering his age 32 season. And, you never know when they're going to go off the cliff. And if all of a sudden they find out, though, Zack, that, hey, you know what, he's in the clear, it's all good, they can come to him and say, hey, what would it take? We want to keep you around another couple of years, but this $17 million cap hit we can't live with. What would it take, Vaughn? You tell us.
I think Mike Kliss did a really good job. He quote tweeted himself by listing the options the Broncos had with Von Miller. And among those options, I think he had 4 of them. Only one was releasing Vaughn. The first one is restructure and maybe strike an extension with him, add a couple more years to his contract, but keep the cap hits lower. Maybe restructure his current cap number and have him play this year only. Maybe trade him and then finally release him. Those are your options with Von Miller, but if you look at that, which two sound more likely and which two sound unlikely? If it's up to me, he's still a future Hall of Fame talent. He's still the heartbeat of your team. He's the face of the Broncos, like it or not. So I would tend to think number one for someone like George Paton, who believed in continuity in Minnesota. They kept a lot of their current players with the Vikings. And I know he wasn't the GM there, but he was among that culture. So again, gun to my head, I think we've been right so far about Drew Lock, Chad, and the Broncos quarterback situation, what they'll probably do. I think with Von Miller, they look to work something out because you want him on the team this year as opposed to off the team in George Paton's first season.
We'll talk more about it on the other side. We gotta take care of some matters of business. We got to talk to JT. Maybe we'll pick JT's brain too on this very topic. There's a lot more to be said on this between Zach and I. And of course, we want to see what's on your mind in the chat. So anything, by the way, once we get JT on the show, any questions, any supers you have for JT in particular, get them in the chat. John will keep an eye out, and we'll try and get him in front of JT before we say goodbye to him tonight. But first, we do have to say thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast, Manscaped. Guys, we're now, we're halfway through February, inching closer to March. Hopefully you've put that crappy year of 2020 behind you. You've embraced the new year, new me mindset. And what better way to help you do that and cultivate that mindset than with Manscaped, which is best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped has helped over 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. So it's, I got to keep saying this because I think this happened to a lot of dudes, at least a lot of dudes I know. If you let yourself go a little bit in 2020, quarantine, what have you, Manscaped is here for you to reboot, help you stay clean and shaved in 2021, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, with quarantine and last year and everything that went on with the word that shall go unnamed, everyone kind of put on, I can speak for myself, that freshman 15, we can't help you losing weight, but we can help you no matter what you weigh, feel better about yourself, because with the lawnmower, the weed whacker like I'm holding right now, your face, no matter your profession, what you're doing, your hobby, no matter what you're doing in daily life, virtual or in person, your face is always exposed. Your face is seen when you take your mask off. When you have the weed whacker, you get it in your nose. It's no pain. It's easy. It's ergonomic. It gets the job done. You get in your ears. You can use the lawnmower for your neck, your arms, your back, your chest. It doesn't have to be just below the belt. Manscaped is the total male grooming, Chad. The total kit that you need for any part of your male grooming needs. It is the way to go. I promise you.
And I say this all the time, that I was surprised at how many options were out there to help you take your male grooming. And it's not just grooming, but just hygiene, I guess, or style too, and to another level. All right. I slept on that. I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's because I've been married 13 years. I don't know. Charge it to the game, whatever. But they have everything you need and more. So right now, if you go to manscaped.com and you use the code HUDDLE, you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. And your family jewels, they'll thank you.
That's right. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code HUDDLE. Happy New Year to you and your family jewels.
All right. I'm going to very, very, very quickly dive through just a couple quick matters of business, and then we're grabbing JT. Follow the pod on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, the main account at Mile High Huddle. Follow the podcast on Facebook. There's the URL, but just go to Facebook, open up, search Huddle Up Podcast. You'll find us. Like and follow, because if you have liked and followed the page, you're automatically entered to win in this week's giveaway. We're going to give away some more swag randomly. Of course, we just pick the names out of the hat. We got a little widget we use to pull the names, and we randomly select. You could be in on that, so make sure you find the Huddle Up Podcast on Facebook, follow and like. And then also, gentle reminder, we've got some brand new designs coming down the pike as early as this week at the merch store. So head on over to huddleuppod.com, get your swag on, get a hat, get a t-shirt, get a face mask, get a mug, and then also become a supporter and get access to our VIP premium video content over on Facebook, which has started with the flagship Kelberman's Corner. Zach, Kim Becker, hot takes that hold water. It's a little bit different flavor than what we do on these nightly live streams. So go to our Facebook page, Mile High Huddle's Facebook page. You'll see the big blue button. Click on that. You're in like Flynn. And if you're not able to do those things, gang, it's all good. We just appreciate and just are so grateful that you're here with us. Make sure you subscribe, though. Crucial on YouTube, crucial on Apple, crucial on Spotify's. And like this video, guys. Right now we have hundreds and hundreds of you when you combine YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. Hundreds of people right now live in the chat. If each one of you just simply gave this video a like, it would help us out tremendously. So please, at some point before you dip out, just do it now so you don't forget. Like the video. And then 3 is the litmus test. If we're doing a good job for you, share this video out there. Help us continue to grow, reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
And speaking of Broncos fans, let's bring on Jay Thomas, a.k.a. JT, longtime supporter, been a big part of the MHH community, even dating back to before we started doing the Huddle Up podcast as a daily live stream. He's been with us a long time, and this has been a long time coming as well. So JT, of course, in the United Kingdom, in London, thank you for staying up late to be on with us, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired, but the adrenaline's take over. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk with you guys and get to meet the rest of the Mile High Huddle community.
Yeah, man. For people who are they don't do math too well, like myself. Zach asked the question right before we went live. What time is it right now in London? And it's
1:32 in the morning.
See, there you go. So we appreciate the diligence and going the extra mile. So we like to start these superstar segments with the same question every time, and that is, our catchphrase, one of them anyway, here on the podcast, and that is that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a state of being. It is wherever you are. And, of course, you being in London, you kind of have a unique story on how you became a Broncos fan. Tell us how that happened, how you became not only a Broncos fan, but, you're a pretty outgoing, dedicated, passionate, knowledgeable Broncos fan.
Well, obviously, being in London, living in the UK, it's not the primary sport that we're all accustomed to here. Soccer, what you call is football here. So I never really had any idea what the NFL was about. I didn't even know it existed as a young kid. But probably I shouldn't have been, but I stumbled across an animated series, South Park, as you're fully aware. And at a very young age that I probably wasn't allowed to be watching, I've got to say, sorry, Mum. And they did this episode, and it was John Elway and the Denver Broncos. Who is John Elway? Who are the Denver Broncos? Why are these guys wearing helmets? And why are they hitting each other? And it just took off from there. And I got so wrapped up in trying to understand what this sport was that I'd never seen before. It's not taught in schools. We don't play it. No one talks about it. And it just went from there. I just started talking to my father about it. Like, what is this? Who is John Elway? Tell me John Elway. He's like, I ain't got a clue, John Elway. You're going mad. Like, and I did my own research off the back of that, and that was it. And the first game I ever watched was, I want to say in 1997, the Jacksonville Jaguars in the divisional game. And they lost that game, if I remember rightly, and it didn't put me off. I thought, I'm a big fan of South Park. I love Orange and Blue. This is the first team I've ever heard of. I'm going to stick with it. And that was that. And ever since then.
There's a lot of Broncos references on that show. Casa Bonita, the restaurant in Denver. There was a whole episode with Cartman there. So, JT, I want to ask you, like we always ask our Super Chat superstars, in your time as a Broncos fan, what has been your number one top memory, and conversely, what has been your least favorite memory as a Broncos fan?
I think the least favorite was the drop off after Pat Bowlen died recently. I think just the total dysfunction. The Broncos have had bad seasons before, but the total dysfunction that has ripped through the whole of the organisation since the passing of the great Pat Bowlen has been it's been incredible from top to bottom. It's no one knows what they're doing. It's like headless chickens running around. Yeah. Everyone's pointing fingers at everyone, but no one's taking accountability for anything that goes on with inside that organisation. And I think that was the worst time for me, and that's still going on. The best time, back-to-back Super Bowls, I've got to say, it was I was just really getting into being a Broncos fan, understanding the game. Never seen a Super Bowl before, so to see the Broncos go and win the Super Bowl and then go back to the Super Bowl after, for me, it was, wow, this is great. I want more of this. I want to see more of this.
It's interesting because the Super Bowl is such a spectacle, right? I mean, this year's Super Bowl was a little bit to me, it was a little disquieting because it's supposed to be the spectacle to end all sports spectacles. And, you still got the jets flying over and they put the cardboard cutouts of people in the stands. And there were some fans in Tampa and all that, but it just felt weird, but the Super Bowl is such a massive thing. For those of us who might be in the States and kind of ignorant of some of the, I'll just say, British or / European, sports preferences, predilections, is there a sporting event on that side of the pond that approaches or matches the spectacle that is the Super Bowl?
I'd say you'd have to look at the World Cup, but that involves every country. So, I mean, we take, as you say, soccer, we call football here. Mm-hmm. We take that very seriously. That's our primary sport. We all have our local teams we support. We have the Premier League. We have several leagues below that as well. And I think the World Cup is the pinnacle of it over here. We also have the Champions League final, which is pretty big as well for European clubs. And so that's clubs from all over Europe that fight in one league, and then the winner takes all, kind of like the Super Bowl. Yeah. Not the same sort of layout, but similar. I think that's really the biggest that we have here. I mean, it's great. We love it. But the Super Bowl for me is just different. It's totally different to anything I've ever experienced. I've been to huge games with football over here, but the Super Bowl, just everything about it is so full on. It's 100 mile an hour. It's in your face. And I love that. I love everything about it.
Jay, I mean, I've asked that question, your least favorite memory as a Broncos fan to quite a few, superstars on this show. That's the first time I've ever heard that answer, where my least favorite memory was the end of the Pat Bowlen era and how everything went to crap since he passed away and how the standard has just evaporated. You and I kind of share a brain on the issues with the Broncos. And to keep it more currently, two of the bigger storylines in Denver for this season will be the quarterbacking and the coaching. Where do you see those facets ending up? Where do you see Drew Lock playing this year? Where do you see Deshaun Watson playing? I know you're not big on Vic Fangio, after last year. Where do you see him coaching? How do you see the state of the Broncos playing out going into this upcoming season and beyond?
Well, I think we had our answer in George Payton's introductory presser. I mean, he said everything that we want to know about the offseason there. He's going to be aggressive, but he's not going to be reckless. He's going to be involved in every deal. Now, people might take that too literally. I mean, I could ring up the local car dealership about the Ferrari sitting on the forecourt. I could be interested in that. I don't have the money and I've got no interest in buying it. But I can be involved in it and say that I was involved.
Right.
It makes other teams force their hand. You get to get a feel around the league. But I'm sticking with what George Payton said, and I think he's true to his word. He's going to be involved. He's going to look at the market, but he's not going to remortgage the future in a red shirt year, if you will. He's had to take on the coaching staff, which personally, I don't think he wanted to do. I think he wanted the Broncos job and he was willing to do whatever it took to get it, personally. There's a reason he took this job. You don't see many general managers inherit what he's inherited. He's still got the former general manager in the building. So for me, I don't think he's going to pull the plug on Watson. I don't think he's going to go out and sign this huge name, remortgage the future, considering he was renowned for stockpiling draft picks with Minnesota and building from within. He's not going to want to throw the next 3 years drafts away to get a quarterback when he doesn't have a defense to put on the field to keep him on the field. And that's the problem. We won't be competitive. When it comes to Drew Lock, I think Drew Lock's been dealt a very bad hand since he entered the league. He thought he was going to be a first-round pick. He went in the second round. He was sat behind Joe Flacco, who made it public knowledge he had no interest in teaching Drew Lock whatsoever. He then gets hurt. The word that should go unnamed happens. He's had 6 OCs in 6 years. He then gets hurt this year. He has a supporting cast of rookies, loses his number one receiver. I mean, the guy's been dealt a bad hand to enter the league. But he's shown some promise. He's shown a lot of bad things, a lot of facepalm moments to myself. I sit here and I go, damn, man, what are you doing? But then he's shown some things where you go, okay, that was good. Especially down the stretch this season, which I think is very, very important. How we ended this season has to be at the forefront of George Payton's mind and the coaching staff, because it wasn't like he went out on a bomb and it completely fell apart where you can categorically say, look, this guy's just not getting better. he got better when the season ended. And you just like to think, if there was 4 more games, could we be having a different conversation now? Because he was on the upside. So I think he's only actually played 18 games in the league. It's barely a season. So he's going into his 3rd year on that. So I'm just not sure I'm ready to kick into the curb yet. I think get the right pieces around him, rebuild that defense, keep it competitive, get Cortland Sutton back. Another year in the offense under Pat Shermer. I don't like Shermer at all, but continuity is got to be better than getting someone else in at this present time if we're going to stick with Drew Lock.
Yep.
So I think to stick with him and to give him some continuity for the first time in his professional career could do him the world of good.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Spitting, fire, dropping nothing but truth here is JT. John, I know you've got a super from David Kilgore, fellow superstar, and David's going to be on the show in the very near future, so we look forward to seeing you, David. He says, hey, JT, just wondered if you think the NFL will get a team there in the UK. Now, real quick, just for those who maybe aren't aware of this, there have been a lot of rumors and conjecture and speculation that the Jaguars, that the owner there, Shad Khan, is angling for the Jaguars to eventually move to London, right, to the UK and become the London Jaguars. But to answer David, do you think that's going to happen at some point? Because that's quite the turnaround, right, in terms of teams that have to travel. That's a long ways.
I agree. Personally, I can't see it happening. There is a lot of smoke to it. I mean, Khan does own a British football team over here as well. So he does have allegiances over in London. They signed up to a long-term contract to play at the Wembley Stadium in London. They're over here every year. He loves it here. He loves the Jags being here. The fans love the Jags being here. I mean, it sells out every week. And some of the games in America, the flight times aren't all that different. You know, so it feasibly could be done. Things like jet lag and time zones would be, you know, that would pose massive problems. Would players want to do it? For fans in the States, would they want to travel? That might mess up their time clock as well. So there's a lot of bad to it. Being from the UK, I'd love to see it happen from the heart. But speaking realistically, I don't want to mess something up or start something that could derail everything. And then suddenly you've got Mexico wants a team, and then Germany wants a team. And you know, I kind of like it as it is. So speaking from the heart, would love it. Think it would be brilliant because we have great support over here. But speaking from the head, I just don't think it's realistic.
All right. I've got one more question, and I know Dave from Georgia has a super chat for you here, another fellow superstar. And Dave, have we talked about getting you on the show? If you'd want to come on, shoot me an email or DM me on Twitter. Let's schedule a time, get you on the show, my friend. He says, hey, JT, how long have you been a fan, and how many cornerbacks do we draft? Hashtag Broncos country, hashtag state of being. Obviously, I want to hear what Chad and Zach have to offer.
I want to hear what Jay has to say.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here going like this, just like listening to Jay, like, yeah, mm-hmm. So first off, what's your answer, JT, for Dave?
Thanks for the support, Dave, as well, for the show and everyone else. I just want to get that in there quickly. I've been a fan for a long time, over 15 years now. I'm 32 this year. Can't believe I had to look up and think about it then. But how many quarterbacks do we draft this year? I think it depends on free agency. I think it's a big market for quarterbacks. I think it's a big market in general. You're going to see a lot of talent go for fairly cheap. The cap is going to be a massive issue. Broncos are in a good position, sit top 10 in cap space, top 10 for something this season at least. And I think that will double dip in the draft, depending on free agency. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying go after Patrick Peterson, but you just moved on from Boye's contract. And for cap relief, are you really going to then give all of that to Patrick Peterson to create the same issue that you had? So personally, I think they go and get a good cornerback free in free agency just to make sure that we're not undercut when we come out of the draft, and then possibly we double dip.
All right. So I agree on that, Zach. Let's answer Dave real quick. I've speculated. All right, this isn't a bold prediction per se, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Denver Broncos kind of follow last year's model of taking the same position in back-to-back rounds and go corner to open this thing up. Now, again, that's not a prediction from yours truly, but as JT eloquently stated, so much of what they ultimately end up doing in the draft will be informed first by how free agency shakes out, because the way these GMs, the philosophy behind every GM in the league starts with trying to fill as many of your roster holes as possible in free agency, so that when you do get to the draft, you're able to be a little bit more free of any, driving need or compulsion to solve a problem and fill a hole. And that doesn't mean teams don't still take, draft for need, but what that allows teams to do is say, all right, here's our top 10 cornerbacks or whatever, and now it's our turn on the clock, and we're just going to take who we think is the next best available cornerback on our board. Boom, it's done. But if you go out and, just as an example, Zach, if you go out and sign a Patrick Peterson, which I hope does not happen because I think his best days are well in his rear view and he's going to still command a pretty penny, then, you've got conceivably one of those starting 3 slots solved. And so maybe you don't double dip, at least not early in the draft.
Yeah, for the sake of conversation, some Broncos fans, first of all, I do think they're going to double dip in both markets, in the open market and through the draft. I don't think it's a Patrick Peterson, and some people are speculating Xavier Rhodes might be a target because of his past ties to George Paton. He's going to command a hefty contract as well. The cornerback they're going to sign on the open market is going to be a mid-tier guy like a Mike Hilton, a Mackenzie Alexander, and they're going to save their prime resources for the draft. I don't happen to think they're going to go 1 and 2 cornerback in the draft. It could be 1 and 3, 1 and 4, but they will come out of the draft with at least 2 rookie cornerbacks on top of the veteran they signed. Like JT said, that should be enough to give them some insurance in case suspensions arise, people get sick, hurt, whatever. They can't be in the same situation they were this year.
All right, let's grab that last super from JT, and then we'll cut him loose because it's getting really late for him. Rogue Theory, who has come on strong of late, really working his way up to being a superstar. And by the way, a cat that I share a lot of interest in. This guy used to play in punk rock bands. I used to play in punk rock bands. But he's got a good question here for JT. He says, hey, JT, an NUFC fan here. Who you got in the Prem?
Sadly, my team are not good enough to be in the Premier League. I support a championship team called Millwall. So you probably wouldn't have heard them. We're not very good. But they're my local team. So I'll run with that.
All right. Well, guys, obviously, as you can tell, Zach and I very much enjoyed having JT on the show, just listening to him talk. This is a guy, JT, you do a great job of articulating whatever your take is, whatever your thought is, even though you got a light on you in the camera and you got people watching, you do a good job of staying poised and present and articulating that thought. So credit and kudos to you, my friend. And I know it's late. Maybe you're just like second winding it right now. You're just like delirious, you're just on point. Happens to me sometimes. But, dude, thank you for staying up late, making some time for us. And follow him on Twitter, by the way. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Greg. At JThomas89, as you can see on screen here, at JThomas89. Trust me when I say a great Twitter follow, very knowledgeable and very engaged in what's going on with the Denver Broncos. So, Jay, give our best to your family, and thank you so much for making some time for us. And as Zach and I tried to convey before the show, we appreciate so much your contributions to the community and to the show and to the channel and to just MHH, the brand, over the years, man. We love you. We appreciate you.
Guys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been real from the days where subscribing to Apple Podcasts, wondering if you're going to get our question on the show, to this. It's crazy. To Zach on 24/7 Sports on Facebook, it's come a long way, and this is the best community in football. Categorically, there's nothing else like it. The support is great. Just make sure everybody likes, subscribe, and share. It's brilliant.
Hey, show the shirt off. That might be the coolest non-MHA shirt that we've ever seen on the show. That
very well done, man.
That's so dope. I love it.
All right, my friend. Get some shut eye. We'll talk to you soon. Definitely going to have to get you back on the show in the near future, my friend. So good to see you, and we'll talk to you in the near.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks. All right, there he goes, Jay Thomas. That was one. I got to be honest. Like, I don't like to play favorites, but that was one of my favorite superstar segments of all time. Like, Jay dropped some knowledge, and it wasn't like anything he said was earth shattering, right? But like, he just spoke with confidence, with authority, articulated it well. Got to give the man his props.
He also spoke with common sense and rationale, and that's what I like about JT. And not to say that I like what he said because he's agreeing with what the points I'm making. He's looking at things objectively and not putting his fan cap on. He's looking at it with his brain, not his heart, and I always respect that. But I was finding myself, when he was talking about Drew Lock and the coaching staff, I was literally transfixed on watching him talk, Chad, and seeing what he had to say because, like you said, we've gotten a lot of people on the show. We've gotten a lot of different answers. His retorts were spot on. I thought he was great.
He was very, very good. And listen, we love all of our community members and our superstars. The same. Seriously, we love each and every one of you. But JT just did a really good job knocking it out of the park on
nailed it. Yep.
His first swing at the plate. So appreciate you, bro.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So let's grab this very patient, talk about a superstar, Muhammad, a.k.a. MHH, male model. How's it going? It's going good. It's going good. We can't complain. How are you doing, bro? Hope everything's good in your neck of the woods. And thanks for your patience and your support as always. Let me see real quick here, John. Let me just give you an update on what we need because I have, I think it's BNS is my next, is where I'm at in this stream. But we have from Mo till, from Mo, we need this, the first BNS. There's two BNS. Terry Randall, Levi, Zach, Mike, Boggins, Mark. Oh, we did get Mark Langley. No, we need Mark Langley. David Kilgore second, Michael K, Murphy Bros, Hez, Rogue Theory. That's kind of, we got the Rogue Theory. So that's just start filtering them through. But real quick, let's grab BNS, who's been waiting patiently. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Good to see you as always. Longtime listener and member of the YouTube side of our community. But he says, best confessional ever. Kelberman's corner is cooking too. Hashtag all pro Bulls. You got to keep rubbing that in, you know. But hey, look, we had I was maybe not quite as I don't know, maybe not quite as much vitriol for me, but I'd lost my dude. I was defending Garrett Bowles all through 2019, taking the fiery barbs. But when there was no real sign, I mean, he improved modestly the last quarter of the season, but still. I had to say, look, until proven otherwise, this dude is looking like he's going to be a bust. But then he proved otherwise, and so all I can do is this, Zach.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it when the Valentine's Day tweet from Garrett Bowles that said, you know, he's flexing right now, he deserves to flex. But BNS, the Bulls news service never disappoints. I appreciate your support for KK. Thank you so much. And you are right. Garrett Bowles deserves all of the praise that we're going to heap on him.
Terry Randall. It's been a minute since we've seen Terry Randall in Super Chat. So good to see you, bro. Talk about a superstar, another guy we've had on the show. Great to talk to him then. Great to see you now, my friend, up there north of the 49th parallel. And I'm trying to see that in his profile pic. Obey the rules, Broncos, 1960. Cool. He says, love you guys, hashtag state of being. Another one of our great community members and superstars, Zach, who exemplify that particular hashtag.
OG, Terry. Appreciate you.
I got to get Savage Boy Kev on Twitch because he always brings a good question and he diligent, consistent viewer, listener on Twitch. Appreciate you, Kev. He says, what do you guys think Fant, Sutton's, and Judy's ceilings are? I mean, I think honestly, like Sutton's ceiling is something approximating Megatron, something close, maybe not that transcendent, you know, when Megatron was at his peak, but something like that. Fant could be George Kittle. Fant could be Travis Kelce if he had a consistent OC and distributor of the football. And then Jerry Jeudy, I mean, he could be Emmanuel Sanders' caliber, in my opinion, production at a certain point. But what all three of these guys need is Drew to turn the corner or a competent Q to distribute the ball where it needs to go, find that soft spot in the zone, get it to the open guy, and an OC that knows how to do that. We'll see how it shakes out.
I'm going to make it a little more cliche. I think Courtland Sutton, I'm holding true to what I said before his injury. His ceiling is the best receiver in Broncos history. So better than Demaryius, better than Rod Smith. He was looking like a baby Megatron. And if he had a better quarterback or more consistency, better coordinating, the sky is the truly limit for Courtland Sutton. He was already a top 10 guy. Noah Fant, I mean, he's ascending still, and it was a travesty when they ignored him last year. He could have had a 1,000-yard season if they gave him the attention he should have gotten. I see a perennial Pro Bowl tight end. I'm not going to put any comps on him like George Kittle, Travis Kelce. I just see a Pro Bowler there. Jerry Jeudy I see as a very high upside, like Chad said, Emmanuel Sanders, a very high upside wide receiver too. For right now, I don't see a wide receiver 1 in Jerry Jeudy, but that means he can be the partner in crime to a true number 1, and that's why they drafted him, Chad, to be the partner in crime for Cortland Sutton. And you had KJ Hamler, Noah Fant. This offense has weapons, and it's a shame that, like you mentioned, the coaching and the quarterbacking ultimately is doing them in.
Levi Hope, who is going to be on the show over the next few weeks, looking forward to that, bona fide superstar. He says, I love Vaughn and would hate to see him go. My gut tells me he's gone. I hope I'm wrong. I feel you, man. My gut's been sending me mixed messages because there was a time, like if John doesn't step down and relinquish GM duties, I was like 80% that Vaughn, they pick up his option and just see how it goes because he's coming off the injury. DeAngelis, appreciate that, my friend, on Facebook. But he did step down, and now you got a new set of eyes and a fresh perspective on this with no history, right? There is no loyalty / bond, so to speak, between George Payton and Von Miller. And then you throw into that, into the garden a snake did come aspect of this corrupted. It's not just a pure football decision now. There is this weird criminal investigation that's happened with the Parker PD. So I don't know what to think. I don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. This one to me is really – it's a mystery. I don't know. I can't predict it at this stage.
My gut tells me that they're going to come to some understanding. And I read a report, I can't remember exactly from who, that said the Broncos want Vaughn back and Vaughn wants to come back to Denver. I think they will work something out for a reduced rate, or maybe, like I said, an extension which allows them to lower his cap hits. But we've been, or at least I have been, preaching a year of continuity and status quo under George Payton. That doesn't just apply to the coaching staff or the quarterback in Drew Lock. That also applies to the current personnel. I just don't see a rookie GM coming in and, for whatever reason, facilitating the departure of the future Hall of Fame cornerstone player like Von Miller. I think they will do both sides, anything and everything to get this done where he will be on the field for 2021. Failing that, after that, all bets are off. But I think my gut tells me he will be back for this season.
JT, jumping back into the stream to throw up some love and a very generous super chat. Love you, bro. It really was a pleasure having you on and getting to chat with you before we went live and all that. And so seriously, man, we'll get you on the show again in the near future because that was a blast. And we appreciate you. He says, for the love you guys have shown me, here's some of my own. Thank you for all your questions. MHH community, I hope to connect with you all. The best community in football. Hats off.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before we went on. He mentioned it briefly when he was departing. I mean, JT even goes back to anyone that's tuned into them, the 24/7 Facebook Live chat way back years ago. And he's been through, like he said, Apple Podcasts and us doing just, audio only podcasts and 2 days a week. And he's a real ride or die day one. So JT, you have our respect and our appreciation 100%.
All right, Zach and John, I have a few of the supers in tandem. We are on Twitch, Broncos Fan 13. So find us on there, Mile High Huddle. I've got a few. I got access to everything, by the way, John, and until it jumps. So give me just a second, then I'll tell you where we're at. But this is from Orange Crush on Twitter. He says, "We know how Vaughn is when he gets his feelings with cryptic message on Instagram." So thank you for that. What he's referring to is their social media was all a buzz today, Reddit, Twitter, because Vaughn went back and edited one of his posts on Instagram from when he signed his big extension, in the summer following the Super Bowl, that said "for life," right? And then he edited that today to say "for life" with quotes around it, and so people are reading into it. But Vaughn does the passive aggressive thing, right. That's his MO.
That's the MO of athletes in the 21st century in the social media era. I mean, he even did that with John Elway when he was negotiating his contract, Chad. He cropped Elway out of a picture. It's just how Vaughn is. I would highly recommend to anyone, don't believe the first thing you read or hear, and don't read into everything out there. Let things play out a little more and not jump to one conclusion to the other. I highly advise that.
A superstar by the name of Zach Lee Butler jumping in. Appreciate you, Zach. He says, "This is up to Vaughn. He has the ring, the money, the All-Pros, Pro Bowls, future Hall of Famer. Only thing left is legacy. Restructure and ride off as a Denver Bronco for life. You know, I wrote something to that same effect today covering these, the rumors, whatever. But the cynic in me goes, look, yeah, he's 32 and he's made over $126 million in the NFL. That's just what he made from salary, all right? That doesn't count endorsements. That doesn't count any of that. $126 million he's made in the NFL, more money than he'll need, than his kids will need, than his family will need ever, right? He's set for generations, basically. And you think, so what becomes the priority? Is it legacy? Is it fit? Is it loyalty? What is it? And fans get lost in the weeds on that because to them to fans we think, hey, that money is like magical, it's mystical, like you can't wrap your brain around it, and so you don't really confront the reality of it. And that is that these players, they go out there and put themselves in harm's way and work their ass off and take a beating for the money. That's it.
Yeah.
Remove that from the equation, Zach, and what do you get?
Exactly. Yeah. I just can't envision Vaughn playing for another team. And it might be really idealistic of me, and I'm not an idealistic person, and it may be too homeristic of me, but I just don't see him, at least this season, playing for somebody else. I do happen to think no news is good news on the Vaughn front, not just his criminal investigation, but we haven't heard any rumblings that either he wants out completely or George Payton doesn't want to bring him back. We've heard in the middle that there's a mutual interest. And I do believe, I might be wrong, I do believe that they will get something done because the comment there was truthful. His legacy means a lot to him. He owns everything else. So this is the last thing he has to preserve for his own pride, his own ego.
I would like to think so, and I would like to hope so. We'll see if it comes out in the wash. DK jumping in again. Appreciate you, bro. He goes, have you guys heard anything from Denver if we are in any talks with teams for free agency? I mean, all the buzz right now on the Broncos front is quarterback related. And even what we heard today with Vaughn was just a temporary reprieve in that. The Broncos basically have until March 17th to really decide what they're going to do with Vaughn. And hopefully there'll be some resolutions to the Parker PD investigation between now and then. But it's all about quarterback. And the last thing we've heard is that, and it's another thing that's been refuted by Denver insiders, Michael Lombardi. We were off yesterday, so Nick and Carl addressed this on Building the Broncos. But Michael Lombardi appeared, and now Michael Lombardi, for those of you who don't know who he is, he springs off the Bill Belichick tree, going all the way back to the Cleveland Browns era of the 90s, and then he became later on. He got a couple different stops. Then he came back, became the GM/VP in Cleveland, and then even after that, after he lost his gig, he went on to work for Belichick again, but this time in New England. So he's an old Belichick guy, very experienced, very knowledgeable, and I can presume plugged in front office guy in terms of he knows everyone in the league. He said that he heard last week, Zach, that the Broncos almost consummated a trade, and for which quarterback he didn't know, which makes you go, well, then why are you even saying it? Like, get out of here with that stuff. But I don't think if you think there's all these rumors have some kind of a kernel of truth to it, and to me, Zach, what that seemed like was vestiges of the Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson stuff, not necessarily anything new.
Do I have a moment to snap real quick? Because we didn't get a chance to go over this, and I don't understand. First of all, he went on Pat McAfee's show, and if you guys remember, Pat McAfee recommended the Broncos and Tom McMahon signed that. I can't even remember his name now, the kicker that missed 3 kicks last season, Chad.
Taylor Russolino.
See? You can't even remember. I mean, so that was number one. And strike two, I have the receipts. I went off on Twitter yesterday. I have the receipts on my Twitter at Kelberman NFL. Michael Lombardi is serially wrong. He's perpetually wrong and annually wrong. If you search in Twitter, Michael Lombardi wrong, you will see what I'm talking about. This is a guy who is a former GM for a reason, a failed GM for a reason. It's like Rex Ryan going on ESPN and giving his prediction, a failed head coach. Just because he says the Broncos were close to making a big trade for a quarterback, like you mentioned, he didn't name the quarterback. We all knew they were in the Stafford talks. You know, they've all those reports have said they made an offer. They were there with it. It could have been Stafford. So why are you reporting that? And why is that suddenly news? And all it did was just add more fuel and help craft the narrative of the Lock haters. any report that comes out by now, with anyone with a question, a check mark, they will run with that as gospel, when in reality, Michael Lombardi said nothing that we did not know already. They said they were close to trading for a quarterback, which was likely Stafford, and will be in the market for one. We all knew that. How is that breaking news? Why are we even mentioning Michael Lombardi's name right now? He's doing those things to stay relevant. And let me tell you something, Chad, a former NFL GM with any clout or any credibility, respectability, does not go on Pat McAfee's podcast to give these breaking insightful reports. If it's from Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Tom Pelissero, I will believe it. For Michael Lombardi, a guy who's made his post-GM career out of being wrong, excuse me if I'm not jumping to get rid of Drew Lock.
There you go. Straight fire. John, did you want to throw a super on? If not, I'm going to grab Roger. Let me grab Roger. Nope, we got Mark. Appreciate you, Mark. Talk about a superstar in Georgia, personifying the hashtag state of being as well. He says, Manscaped works great, my boys.
Your family jewels.
Hashtag huddle pod, hashtag football priest, hashtag hey John, hashtag MHH. Appreciate that, Mark. Love you, buddy. Yep.
There it is.
Code huddle. There it is. Appreciate you.
Promise you it works, guys. We didn't pay
Roger.
him. That's a legit testimonial right there.
Legit. And listen, we missed now Roger has been a very dedicated member of our community, and especially on Facebook. He has been, a supporter for ever since we launched the VIP premium option on Facebook. He's been there for us. So appreciate you, Roger. And this is a message to Roger. This is a message to everybody listening right now. We do the best we can to try to get to as many questions and comments as we possibly can, especially for the true supporters of what we're doing here. Every once in a blue moon, things will slip through the cracks. And so when that happens, just reach out to us. Just say, hey, man, I had a question. You guys missed it. And we're going to get to you. We're going to go, dang it, sorry. We'll get you the next, we'll make it up to you. And ask anyone. We make it up to you. So, Roger, love you, buddy. Appreciate you. He says, if the Broncos decided to trade Miller, what could we get in return? And how much does he still have in the tank? Zach, what's your answer for Roger?
A second-round pick, I think, for Vaughn is, I would say, a conditional second-round pick, or a conditional third that could be a second. He's not going to draw a first-rounder, and he's not going to go for a mid-round pick. So maybe a conditional third or a solid second, I think, is a good return on investment, because you have to consider the team that's trading for him is also taking on his contract. So the Broncos will be happy, I think, if they got a second for him, but could be a third.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as far as what he has left in the tank, look, I don't know. He still looks big and strong and explosive. When even toward the end of the year, when he was out there just kind of jogging around a little bit with his boys on the field, the Broncos on the practice field, I want to believe that Vaughn comes back and can be at least 2018, 2019 Vaughn. Good for 8 to 12 sacks type Vaughn. But is it worth $18 million? I don't think so, because Malik Reed just gave you 8 sacks for $500K, right? So, but at the same time, Vaughn might not always get home, but he stacks those pressures. He affects the game. Problem is affecting them in the clutch and when the chips are down and all. It's hasn't been as consistent and regular as it was for so many of those great future Hall of Fame years for Vaughn. We got Joey on Twitch with an interesting question. Guys, hit me up on this, because I'm not sure what Cowherd said, but he says, Zach, maybe you have an answer. Any reaction to what Colin Cowherd said about Drew Lock today on his show? Seems he feels Drew is the problem in terms of not winning. I don't agree, but thoughts? Well, let's just vibe off we can just infer the whole he's the problem. Drew's not the problem. Drew was part of the problem last year in terms of, he didn't take the step forward. He couldn't raise the ships around him. But there are so many mitigating factors behind that, Zach. It's hard to jump to conclusions. And yet the NFL is a production-based business, and these players and these coaches and these GMs, man, their opportunity to shine and capitalize and make the most of their jobs is so finite that teams don't have any more 4 or 5, 6 years to just say, well, we'll get them next year, Drew. That's why they're out there looking right now. And if George Payton can find a quarterback that he believes is a day one upgrade over Drew, and it doesn't require completely selling everything, he's going to take it. He's going to do it. But only time will tell whether or not that happens. I still think that it's a better bet to just run it back with Drew just like JT said when we had him on a few minutes ago, rebuild the defense. You get Cortland back. You get the second year with Shermer. You go out and hedge and get a competent backup, a true fail-safe, and see where the chips fall, and then you'll have your answers at.
I'm going to allow my personal lawyer, Mahesh, to answer for me. We all know how Zach feels about Colin Cowherd. I don't give a crap what he says about the Denver Broncos, nor anything else. He is a clickbait artist, and he makes his living and his career off of these hot takes, quote unquote. This is the national media once again, Chad, and you said it perfectly. Substitute the problem for a problem. One word. He was part of the problem last year, but he wasn't solely responsible for how bad the Broncos offense was. But that's what the national media types do. This is exactly why I have it in my closet right now, and our Super Chat superstars have it on their bodies when they wear it. Let them hate. That's why the whole hashtag form, Chad, because the national media has no idea what they're talking about when it comes to Drew Lock, and they're going to just hop on the popular narrative that this roster is a ready-made roster. They have a lot of talent, but they have statistically, analytically, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't personally judge my entire life or govern my life on stats or analytics. I have to trust these and this, my heart and my eyes and my brain. Colin Cowherd looks at stats very cursory, like we all know, and he sees Locke was a bottom 5 quarterback, and that's where he makes that determination. The truth is, though, Drew Lock did a lot of good last year, especially in the second half, and he's actually improving as he's gone along in the NFL, despite, like JT mentioned, Chad, the lack of a supporting cast, the lack of coaching, pandemics, lack of continuity. He's overcome all of that. So what Colin Cowherd thinks compared to what reality is, and he doesn't live in reality, doesn't matter to me.
Shout out to Mike Craw for the super chat there, my friend. That's a name I don't recognize, Zach, on Super. So
welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Connect with us on Twitter. And then real quick, before I grab the next one, shout out to Dylan, who is we're making a special segment for Dylan Monday. Dylan's going to be on the show, who's been a longtime superstar, longtime Mount Rushmore superstar. And he now helps us also as a mod in the chat, and we're going to have him on the show this coming Monday. So we look forward to that, my friend. Muhammad, good to see you, bro. And look what he says, Zach. I guess the Dragon is feeling better, on fire tonight, and I love it. Yeah, it seems like that whatever under the weather you had over the weekend, that's in the rear view, huh?
All it takes is a bad GM making a bad take about a Broncos quarterback, or a Colin Cowherd type to get me to feel better. But I appreciate you, Mo. I am feeling better, and I look forward to seeing you on the pod tomorrow and on KK on Sunday.
Mr. Boggins, another stud. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. And we do we have you rescheduled to be on the show? We do. I'm not sure what the date is, but looking forward to talking with you again. He says, I love Vaughn, but the pile is growing. Age, injury, off the field, new GM, draft depth, and Malik Reed playing decently. His time in Denver might be ending. It might be. And there are a lot of factors that are going against him, but at the same time, he's Von Miller, and that name in Denver is sacrosanct. I mean, it's just under the names like Elway, Manning, Bailey, Davis, Atwater. I mean, he's up there with those names. And so you got to tread carefully. If you're George Payton, you can't step on your you-know-what day one on the job by blowing up, one of the most cherished players in franchise history. If there's a chance to salvage it, you try to salvage it, because I do think if the Broncos move on from Vaughn, wherever he lands, he's going to go have a good year in 2021. Like, he'll go out and just blow the doors down, because anytime Vaughn has had something to prove, my dude proves it, right? He gets her done.
Imagine him signing with the Niners, Chad, being on that defense, or, signing with the Packers, being on that defense. I mean, he has a lot left in the tank still. And it's for the same reason that we didn't really see the Broncos, or Joe Ellis firing John Elway. You can't just undo, legends like that. You can't be the one that separates the legend from the team. So George Payton, again, if we're stressing continuity with the coaching staff and everybody else and some of the players, the quarterback, why not with Von Miller as well? And that also sends the message, Chad, to other players in the locker room. They come in, they have a new GM, and they have a new sheriff in town now. They're keeping the coaches. They get one more year, but they're going to kick Von Miller to the curb. For what reason? He didn't play last year. It wasn't his fault. He was injured. You have to keep the message of unity in the forefront, and you have to send the right message, and I think George Payton will go about doing that the right way.
Blue Rock, Chris. Oh, God, that was my tweet. Sad face. Zach hates me.
No,
dude.
it's all
not
good,
like
Blue.
So often, like, our great listeners will like bring up a topic to our attention on Twitter, and we'll quote tweet it, and we might say something disparaging about the topic, but don't ever interpret that as coming at you, my friend. It's two different things.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying right there. I appreciate the love, Blue. Anything you ever want to send me on Twitter, I'm more than happy to read.
Shout out to Brad, one of our supporters on Facebook. He says, "Hope Vaughn is back. Restructure him for a couple of years. Let him retire a Bronco." I feel you on that. So, real quick, John. Blue Raw at 7:06 is where I'm at. So we got a few to catch up with. We're at the 54-minute mark. And here's a very generous super chat from a guy who has come on very strong of late as a superstar. And wow, man, you're blowing our hair back with that. Like we're grateful for that support. And we appreciate you. Keep coming and keep being a part of the community and the conversation every day. And it's going to continue to just be a gas having you in this community. He says, "I don't understand the hate with Locke. The fact that so many don't want him to have a chance to develop is mind-boggling. With that mentality, Elway and Manning would not have made it. Their rookie numbers were awful, but like Locke, promise was there." And I agree, Murphy Bros, to a point. I mean, you don't want to go too far off the rails comparing a quarterback like Drew to two Hall of Famers. But nevertheless, the point remains, like, it's something Mike Kliss has talked about that the team is afraid of, that they would perhaps, either move on from him or put him in, include him in a trade package and then he goes somewhere else to have success, because they're the ones that have put in the dirty work. They're the ones that have put in the time and investment. It's like dating that woman that you hit it off. It goes great, but then after a while it kind of sours. You put in that time, and just when it might be turning, you lose patience because you met someone else and you break up and you go to. And then all of a sudden she goes on to have, and you're keeping tabs on her on Twitter or Instagram, and you're sad that you jumped
Chris Harris Jr.
too soon. Exactly. You're sour grapes Harris.
Yeah, that's the thing with Drew Lock is I want to actually reference what JT said, because he nailed it. All the points that he made, if you really look at the hands that he was dealt since entering the NFL, first-year coordinator, then an injury, then a new coordinator, then a pandemic, and then losing an offseason, then losing Cortland Sutton, and then having Pat Shurmur. This is all a lot for a second-year quarterback to handle when he needed more refinery coming out. And the Broncos knew that. They knew what they were signing up for with Drew Lock. He wasn't a perfectly polished quarterback. They needed him to be the right amount of polish to be a starting caliber guy in the NFL, and you can't jump ship now. And this is what we've been saying. If he's a bust, so be it. We'll be the first ones to admit it, but at least give him the opportunity to bust on a level playing field. That means giving him this year or most of this year with a veteran behind him as a failsafe and see what he can do. He might turn out to be not maybe a franchise quarterback, but at least a quarterback you can win with, and that's what we will take right now in the short term.
All right, we got one from Hezbuster, another guy that's been coming on pretty strong of late. Really appreciate you, my friend. He says, "My least favorite Broncos memory is Josh McDaniels. Ruined Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall. You guys are awesome. Thankful to have found your podcast."
Oh, thank you.
Hey, thanks, my friend. Yeah, I feel you. He's one of the worst memories I have as a Broncos fan, all right? And that was, like, crushing. Like, it was crushing. If you're Broncos fans can remember, because Cutler was riding high, dude. The season didn't turn out well, but he had a Pro Bowl year. And back then, those numbers that he threw up in 2008, I mean, those were bona fide. Those were, like, for that time and place, Star Wars numbers. It crushed everyone to see Jay Cutler get traded. And the thing that stuck the knife and twisted it, Zach, is the King's ransom they got in return from him from Chicago. They didn't make it count, man. Like, you got Robert Ayers. I forget which one was actually the Chicago pick. I'm pretty sure it was Ayers. No, Sean turned out to be at least solid on his rookie contract, had that 1,000-yard season in the 2013, Star Wars numbers year. But no, Sean, then there was the corner, John? I'm forgetting, Alfonso Smith. Thank you. It was bad. So I feel you on that, Hezbuster.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he was also the coach that had the shortest tenure. He was fired in the middle of his second season, if I'm not mistaken. So in Broncos history, but yeah, there's nothing good that came from him. And same with VJ as well. Sometimes you hire these young hotshot coaches, and you could not be more wrong with your decision. So all we can do is hope that we never see McDaniels in a Broncos building ever again, Chad.
All right, let's grab Gavin. Appreciate that very generous super chat, my brother. You've come on strong of late as well. It's been great getting to know you. He says, "What's up, guys? I can't wait for the draft." And by the way, nice profile pic you got there. Yeah, dude, we can't either. It's fun, but what we equally relish and enjoy is the conversation and the speculation and talking about it until the big day.
Yeah, and that really is a cool little profile pic there with the with the cigarette, the LeBron cigarette in his mouth. Love it.
Very, very creative. And here's the princess of MHH, as we like to call her, Pobby. Appreciate you so much. Thank you,
Pobby.
Means the world to us. I hope you know that you do mean a lot to us. And she says, hello, MHH family. Great to see you, JT. Stay safe, healthy, and warm, everyone. Thanks, Chad, Zach, and John, for everything. And I'll tell you what's helped me to stay warm during this weird, crazy snowstorm in the Rockies and then this cold spell that a lot of people are feeling in the States. That blanket that you stitched together and shipped to all of us, it's been making the difference. So hats off to you as well, Poppy.
It's good to see you in the chat as well, Poppy. I know you have some things going on as with your own life and everything, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy and warm, and your generosity blows us away. So thank you once again. I've been saying it. We've been saying it, Chad, almost every podcast for a year, and we mean it every time. And
here's the queen of MHH.
Here.
Yep, we must genuflect. All right, here she is. Love you, Christy. Appreciate you. She says, hi, just showing some love, and we appreciate that. We love you back. Always great to have the queen of MHH one of our chats.
Thank you, Christy.
We've got one here as well from Michael Cravanis, who's another guy come on strong as a superstar of late. Appreciate you, Michael. He says, if Jarrell Casey is willing to restructure to, say, $5 or $6 million, so that'd be about cutting his salary in half, are you on board bringing him back? It would be nice to see what the front four we thought we had last year could do this year. Yeah, if he was open to really some kind of a prove-it restructure where he can, I would even be open, Zach, to him making all the money back, like $11 million, $11.5 million, whatever he's on the books for, based on incentive. Like, you're in every game you play. If you are in the first four, it triggers this incentive. If you make it through all first 8, it triggers that. You make it all back. But for me, just based on last year, I would want it to be heavily incentive laden.
We don't disagree often, but I really would not bring him back under any circumstance. And I thought maybe Tennessee was being a little knee-jerk, getting rid of a 5-time Pro Bowler for a 7th-round pick. But as he showed last year, maybe Tennessee was onto something, Chad, that he really was not a difference maker at all during his time on the field. He was purely invisible. And rather the Broncos, considering it'd be a negligible salary or a dead money hit, if any dead money hit by releasing him, that money that they've been saving, just pay Shelby Harris, get it over with, pay Justin Simmons, take care of your own in-house guys that have actually earned the money, as opposed to a rental like Jarrell Casey that just flamed out. It was a worthwhile trade that just didn't work out. It happens.
All right, John's pulling up Christy's other super that she's talking about Vaughn and the Chiefs salivating. If you can find that one, if not, John can find it. There it is. Thank you, Christy. Seriously, we appreciate that so much. She says, the Chiefs are salivating with all this Vaughn talk. We can't let the Chiefs get Vaughn. Man, what would that do to Vaughn's legacy in Denver if he left here and went and signed with the Chiefs? But they would need him. Like, he could solve a lot of problems for them, but it would come at a cost, right? He's going to command some serious coin.
Well, what happened to Favre's legacy by playing for the Vikings? He's still, Packers legend Brett Favre. I think he would just be remembered as a guy late in his career that went to chase a ring with the Chiefs, and we would all still appreciate, hopefully, what he did in Denver. That's never going to change.
John, there's another one from Blue Raw about Cap, and then there's one from I Am Supreme about Vaughn and memories, if it's possible to grab those. Thank you for another super there, Rogue Theory. And by the way, we've crossed the 1 hour mark, so we got to kind of rapid fire. Appreciate everyone's patience. He says, gents, realistically, what are we going to do at inside linebacker? Realistically, it's a wait and see on Levante David. And if Levante ends up re-signing and staying in Tampa, then it's a combination of early in the draft using a premium round pick on a linebacker. And there are some good ones, all right? The draft work that Eric and Nick and all those guys have been doing, and Eric's, he's been doing the Broncos Draft Fits series both on YouTube and on the website. There are some linebackers out there that the Broncos can target in rounds 1, 2, and or 3. They could come in and be immediate impact players, but they're also going to hedge and hope, I think, Zach, that you're going to get Justin Strnad back, and perhaps, you could have half of that problem solved if Strnad ends up being the guy Elway and Matt Russell thought he could be, with a little blessing from Fangio, because we know Fangio was big on Strnad as well.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. A lot depends on Levante David's status, and what we know right now is the Bucks want him back, and he wants to be back. They have Serdad, they have some run-stopping inside linebackers, but they need, by hook or by crook, they have to get that coverage linebacker. And it could be a first-round draft choice. It could be Micah Parsons. It could be JOK. It could be someone, if they trade back, like Zaven Collins. There's a lot of talented inside linebackers in this draft class. If they don't sign one and they don't draft one at 9, that has to be a pick in rounds 2 or 3. They cannot wait to address it, Chad. It's the last thing they're missing in that defense, the sideline-to-sideline off-ball linebacker.
Blue Raw, appreciate you, Chris. Are we clearing up the cap? If so, I wonder why. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying there, and maybe it's in relation to Vaughn. Like, if there's any truth to the rumor that the Broncos have already decided, which I really don't think there is. I think it's being discussed, but they don't know yet for sure what they're going to do there. If it's a priority of clearing cap, then yeah, it means that they think they're in the game for probably Deshaun Watson, or maybe they think there's more truth to, the whole Russell Wilson thing in Seattle, something like that. That's a factor. I mean, how much of it is in play right now? There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, and some of the money also, Chad, we've been saying this, the Broncos' first order of business in free agency when it opens next month is not to splurge so much on outside guys, but to take care of your own in-house free agents, and that starts with Simmons and that starts with Shelby Harris. Get those guys signed and then work your way outside.
Also, shout out to Simmons for shouting out MHH and, of course, Buana Beast. That was
the famous person.
Yeah, the famous person, Buana. I am Supreme 22. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. He says, get your money, Vaughn. Thanks for the memories. We move forward. And then he goes on to say this. Appreciate you again, my friend. He says, go after Gardner Minshew, the new Fitzmagic. Let's go. I don't see it with Gardner, dude. Like, I've talked to the guy, and there's an intensity and just an it factor about him that I understand some of the hype. But, like, on the field, I don't see that same juice. Fitzmagic was always a career backup, right? Like, there is that similarity, but I don't see the same juice yet. And maybe he becomes that at some point, but I'm not feeling – I don't understand the push for Minshew. It's a minority of Broncos fans that mention it, but, like, I really can't understand that. You've already got Brett Rippon. They have about the same arm strength. And, in fact, Rippon's a little taller than Minshew. And I just don't get that.
I never understood the lore that Minshew received in the NFL. He was the most hyped quarterback for doing nothing in NFL history, as far as I'm concerned. Why? Because he has a mustache and he dresses very accentually. There's more to a quarterback than that. And if he would come in, Chad, which I don't advocate for at all, he would be a distraction because he has that stupid, I don't even want to call it swagger because it's not cool. It's just this front and this facade he tries to portray about himself. He is nothing worthwhile, and I'd rather the Broncos sign a real quarterback that can actually play quarterback, and if that's an Andy Dalton, that's an Andy Dalton.
Mike Cron. Now I'm connecting the dots, Mike. Bronco Mike on Twitter, right? I remember now our conversation. So good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for 2 Super Chats now tonight, and it was great to connect with you on Twitter. He says, hey, guys, in Broncos country, new listener and longtime Broncos fan from Pennsylvania here. Just sending some support your way. Love the show, guys. We 3 think a lot alike. Let them hate. Love it, dude. Thank you, Mike. Stick around, dog, and we'll be tagging you and shouting you out after the show. So thanks, my friend.
See, that's what I mean, though, Chad. I mean, that hashtag exists because of people like Colin Cowherd and Skip Bayless in the national media, and even some, local Broncos reporters and analysts that just give up on Drew Lock and don't see the worthwhile process of letting it play out with him. And I still think, Mike, and I know you do as well, that there's something to be had with Drew, and I think we'll see it this year.
John, we have, just real quick, we have, after Mike there, we have another one from Chris and Rello here, and then we're out. We're good to go. So, Rello, take over. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. By the way, you got to get a Twitter account, dude, so we can tag you and connect with you and keep the conversation going there, because I type your name into Twitter every night, but I regret that I'm not tagging you. I wish I could tag you and connect with you in DM and all that stuff. So if you don't have a Twitter, create one, follow Zach, myself, John, all the main accounts, and we'll keep the conversation going. He goes, I guess people forgot Drew Lock's last 4 games. He did improve. It wasn't like earth-shattering, but from week 11 on, you got to take out week 12 because he didn't play, because the NFL opted to, disrespect the Broncos in about as overt a way as I've ever seen. but Drew was, I mean, not just modestly better, like leaps and bounds better than Drew week 6 through week 10.
2 of his highest passer-rated games came in the final 4 weeks, and I believe he only threw 2 interceptions his last 2 games combined. I might be wrong on that stat, but he actually did legitimately and tangibly get better as the season wore on. He still had his downs in the games that were ups for him, but that is a young quarterback. And if you watch Locke in week 17 and watch Locke in week 1, it is almost night and day, the difference that you see.
All right, while John's pulling up Blue Raw's last super, let me just take this moment real quick, guys, to remind everybody to follow the podcast on Facebook. Our page is live. We've had it up now about 2 weeks. And those of you who have already followed and liked the page, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And you're automatically entered into the drawings we're going to be doing for swag. So thank you. If you haven't, I mean, look, I know a lot of teenagers and stuff, like my sons who are teens, they don't use Facebook. They use Instagram. They use Snapchat, maybe a little Twitter, but not really. But like people that have to enter the workforce and beyond, almost everyone, unless they have a philosophical, point stuck in their craw over last year in politics and stuff. A lot of people left. A lot of our great friends and members of this community left Facebook because of that. Everyone has a Facebook account, all right, is my point. Follow the page on Twitter, all right, there it is. And if you do it from your browser, facebook.com/milehighhuddlepod. And then also on Twitter, connect with us there. It's another way to keep the conversation going beyond these streams on Twitter. And then also at milehighhuddle.com. We want your takes and your thoughts in the comment section. At HuddleUpPod on Twitter, at MileHighHuddle on Twitter. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL. Myself, at Chad and Jensen. And the famous person here on the podcast, you guys know, all right? Buona Beast, the teddy bear. He will rip your face off, but follow him on Twitter because he'll rip your face off and then he'll give you a kiss on the cheek. Yeah, he's just that guy. But trust, you want to follow him on Twitter. Great Broncos follow. Believe that. And then, John, just tell me when you got Blue Raw, and then we'll call it a night. Merch store. I got to throw it out there, guys. Go get a shirt, get a hat, get a mug. So many different options. Hoodies, like you see Zach wearing there. It's the State of Being hoodie. They look dope. All right,
and they
appreciate
feel
you. And here's Chris. Thank you, Chris. He says, I'll stir up the dragon and take the fire if I get takes like this. Sometimes you do, man. You get the fire, but just know it's all in love. All right. It's it's all in love.
We hand out flame retardant suits, Chad, to our viewers every day. So I could be spitting hot fire, but you guys will never get burned. It's never in your direction. Please know that.
All right, guys. Last call to action. Become a supporter on Facebook. Look, so many of you watch the show on YouTube, and we don't want you to think we're neglecting our YouTube audience by getting this VIP premium video content on Facebook. We have a plan to roll it out to both sides here in the very near future. But for now, it's starting with Facebook. And just know that there are some business reasons behind that have nothing to do with community or anything. It's a business related thing that has to do with Facebook. So head on over to our page, facebook.com/milehighhuddle. You'll see the big blue button, become a supporter. I think it's $5 a month. You get access to Kelberman's Corner every Sunday, noon, Mountain Time, Zack Kelberman, and of course, Kim Becker. Plus, we're rolling out some draft content. Plus, we're going to be rolling out some film breakdown, VIP stuff for the supporters and for eventually our members on YouTube. That's coming very, very soon. And subscribe, like, share, those 3 things. Please give us the like on this video before you dip on out of here. And that's it, Zach. We're done. Let's dip on out, and we'll be back tomorrow night for the Mile High Mailbag. And again, hats off to JT.
Yes. And click those thumbs up, guys, if you haven't already. We'll be back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern. 6 o'clock, I always do that. 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern for the Mile High Mailbag, our favorite pod of the week. If you have any questions beforehand, please hit us up. Chad and Jensen, Kelberman NFL on Twitter, even John K. MHH on Twitter. Let us know what you want to hear. We'll see you then. Have a great end to your Wednesday and a start to your Thursday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.
Love you, Roger. Thank you for the love, dog.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.